your story, how you came to be such a fierce criminal justice advocate, but also tell us a bit about the sort of culture shift that you envision.
Sure. I don't have a book like Tracy, not yet anyway. So I guess I can reveal a little bit more about my story. In 1996, I was convicted of a first-time nonviolent drug crime. I consider myself a casualty of America's ill-conceived, immoral, and highly racialized drug war. And out of that experience, I was given a 10-year sentence. I served a mandatory 40 months. On that 10-year sentence, I had a high school diploma. When I went into the Department of Corrections in Alabama, I had a high school diploma. When I left, the state of Alabama was nearly as progressive as many other states that you heard folks talk about on the various panels with regards to offering post-secondary educational opportunities. You couldn't even take correspondence courses. Fortunately enough for me, I was released to a loving family. My mom is over there that could provide me food, clothing, and shelter, and I didn't have those immediate pressures pressing down upon me. But when I was released, I began to serve the second part of my punishment. My driver's license was automatically suspended because of my drug crime. I was denied federal financial student aid because of my drug crime for a term of years. I was denied admittance into numerous universities and several law schools, even though I graduated summa cum laude from my undergraduate institution. And I'm permanently disenfranchised in the state of Alabama. I will never vote again in the state of Alabama because I was convicted of a crime of moral turpitude. So we say that we want to welcome folks back, but then we set up a policy environment that makes that nearly impossible. So fortunate enough for me, I had that family that could provide me that support system. I was able to get my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, my law degree. I'm licensed to practice law in Minnesota and North Carolina. And that's common. People usually clap after that, but I don't tell that story for the applause or for the data boys. I tell that story just to illustrate the human capacity of the people who we're putting in cages every day in this country. I tell that story because, see, I don't have any delusions of grandeur, that there's something oh so special about me. The only thing extraordinary about me is that I had extraordinary opportunities because I had a viable support system to wrap around me. Now, not everyone is going to have that kind of support system. Everyone isn't going to return to that kind of family and that kind of community. That's why convenings, that's why the work at the federal government, that's why the work that we do in the respective states is so important, so we can create secondary support systems so more folks can be successful. So why am I such a fierce advocate? Because I got skin in the game. I mean, this has directly impacted my life, and we really need to facilitate the leadership development of people who are most intimately affected by the problem and put them at the center of the solution. When you look at any movement, movements are led by the folks most intimately affected by the problem. So you need to get formally incarcerated folks. You need to get folks with conviction histories. You need to get their families at the table to find out the solution. So for example, look, we talk about these analogies. And a doctor, for example, goes through years of training. He learns the anatomy, he learns how to administer drugs, he goes to school for all of that time, and then he goes and does a residency, where he then learns even more about how to care for a patient. What's the first thing the doctor asks you when you come into his facility? What's wrong? What's wrong? America is sick. We have 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's prisoners. Either we're the most morally depraved nation on the globe, as Senator Jim Webb said in that Parade magazine article a few years back. Either we're the most morally depraved nation on the globe, or something's tragically wrong with our criminal justice system. So there's a sickness in our system, right? But we aren't going to ask the patient, right? The folks who have been closest to the problem, what's wrong? So we really need to get formally incarcerated people, people with conviction histories, folks and their families at the center of the solution, and that requires a shift in culture. And that shift in culture is the language that we use when we use to describe these people. See, I'm not an offender. I'm not an ex-offender. That defines conduct, something that I did. that doesn't define who I am as a man. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a deacon in my church, and most importantly, I'm a child of the Most High God. So I refuse to be defined by a single moment in time. So language, that's how we shift culture. The images that we put forth in our media, in our television, if it bleeds, it leads kind of mentality that we have in this country with regards to sensationalizing people who might have done something wrong, right? And that represents such a small percentage of the folks who go through our criminal justice system. It isn't the vast majority. So the images that we put forth. And lastly, amplifying the voices of people who are closest to the problem so they can be at the center of the solution. And the perfect example is we've been given a lot of talk about ban the box today, right? We've talked about it on the various panels. You know who came up with that concept? A group of formerly incarcerated people called All of Us Are None in the Bay Area, because people who are at the center of the problem know what they need. They know their solution.